Hello and welcome to day 20 of 64 Days of Truth. My name is Tio. Today I want to talk about my journey and my role as a spiritual master. And I've identified a few different roles or a few different stages in which I work with people. And I'm going to walk through these stages. And as I'm walking through these stages, I'm also going to link them to my own journey because my journey as a spiritual master is also the way in which I work with people. The first step in this journey is initiation, and this usually comes as a calling. And the calling can come in a multitude of ways. For some people, it comes in a beautiful way, and they listen and they answer the call. And for some people, it comes in very harsh ways because they've been getting the calling, but they've been ignoring it and ignoring it and ignoring it until life forces them to confront and answer the call. So the first step is the initiation, is the calling. And this is also the role that I play for people is many times I may meet someone who has nothing to do with the spiritual world, spiritual journey, and they meet me, and part of my role is activating them, is initiating them into the spiritual journey, into the spiritual path. And there are two types of initiations. I'm going to talk about that linked to my own journey. So, my initiation, my first initiation happened at the age of 24 when I went for an ayahuasca retreat. It actually happened 6 months before that, but I don't want to get into the story too much because I've already shared the story in other streams. So, when I had my initiation, it revealed to me that this is the journey that I'm being called upon, is training, being an apprentice, learning these different things, learning to work with ayahuasca. I was just given this information that you're being called to the spiritual journey. And it was such a deep yes from my heart that I couldn't say no to it. So for me, it was a no brainer to say yes. And I went all in. So I quit my job at Amazon. I left everything behind and I went all in. I moved to Brazil and I started my training. I started as an apprentice, having no idea about anything because when I received my calling, when I had my initiation, I had no connection to the spiritual world. I actually had no interest in spirituality. For me, I was an atheist. I was very much against spirituality because for me it was all full of shit. But I had my own direct experience of the divine, of the oneness, of things that you can only give words to, but until you have the direct experience, it's all just words. It's all empty words. So, for those who've had the direct experience of oneness, of the divine in some way or the other, you know what I'm talking about. That's the experience I had. That's what led to my initiation. And soon after that, I also had visions about my life which were calling me to go on the spiritual journey. So that was my first initiation, and that led to my apprenticeship, which lasted for 8 years. When I left from my apprenticeship, because I received the call that I'm complete. I have received everything that I have in my training, and now it's time to go on my own journey. Now it's time to be the leader myself, because earlier I was assisting my mentor, my teacher for 8 years. I was an apprentice. And then I moved on. And when I left from there, it was 6 months after that that I had a deep experience in which I received my initiation as a spiritual master. I received this title very clearly that you are no longer just a spiritual teacher, you are a spiritual master. And receiving this title was a huge responsibility, and it was something that I did not take lightly because at a very deep level I understood that this is not just a title. I'm being given a role and a big responsibility. And so there was a lot of resistance for a very long time of owning this title and speaking it loud and clear to other people. I would feel very shaky, or it would become about my ego. It would be about, just the title, but not wanting to take the responsibility and the role that comes with it. And so it took me about 1.5 years to really own that title and to own the responsibilities that come with that role. And this was the second part of the initiation. So the way I see the spiritual journey is that the first initiation is when you're just called on the spiritual journey and you don't have a lot of clarity about what's going to happen. You just know that you're meant to go on this journey and figure out stuff and go through some experiences, and it can be however short and long it is. It's pretty like the journey is forever, but until you reach the second initiation, it can be any amount of time. It's very different for each person. And the second initiation happens when you become self actualized, when you become self realized, which is when you realize who you really are, what is your soul, who you are as a soul. And that's what happened to me in my second initiation. So the first initiation, which happened 10 years back, just led me onto the journey where I was working on myself to clear out my resistance, my blockages, heal traumas, all of that. I was calibrating, aligning, going deeper and closer to my soul. And I reached that space 8 years later where it became clear who I am as a soul, who I have been as a soul lifetime after lifetime, and what my journey has been, and why I have reached that level of a spiritual master, because it's not the first time I'm doing this. I've done this for many lives. I was not always a spiritual master as a soul. My soul worked over many lives to reach that level of being a spiritual master. So, one of the roles that I play for people is not just the first initiation, but also the second initiation, which is recognizing, identifying your soul identity. So that is the second step. That's the second level is identity, identifying your soul, who you are as a soul, and what is the role and responsibility that you have as a soul in this world. And then when you identify that, you go on the second stage of the journey, which is owning that identity, owning that role, and fulfilling the responsibilities that come with that role joyfully. Like, it doesn't have to be a burden. When I talk about responsibility, let me just clarify that for me, responsibility today is a very healthy and positive thing. It's not always been this way, but now I love responsibility because it's the responsibility I have chosen. It's the responsibility that's in alignment with my soul. It's not responsibilities that are obligations that were given to me by the world. They are responsibilities that I have chosen, that I love, that I enjoy. So this is a crucial part of my responsibility, is helping people to identify who you are as a soul and what is your role, what are your responsibilities, what is it that will give you fulfillment as a soul, because that's what the identity is all about. Is that once you recognize who you are, that is when you can start fulfilling your role, and that is when you experience true fulfillment. It's when you're fulfilling your purpose, your mission, your role, your responsibilities. That is when you feel fulfillment in your soul. Up until that, you are just fulfilling other people's responsibilities, obligations that are given to you, and it may feel gratifying to some extent, especially if you're in a role where you're helping people. It may still feel fulfilling, but if you're not playing your soul's role, it will still feel like something is missing. And I have experienced this with so many people. You may be a very powerful healer, but you're playing assistant to someone else. Your soul may be a priest or a priestess. Your soul may be a king. Your soul may be a warrior. Your soul may be whatever. There are many different roles that your soul may be, and that is here to play in this lifetime. But what we end up doing is we choose a diminished version of that role because that is way more comfortable for the ego. To own the identity, the title, the role, the responsibilities of the soul, it's a huge work. It's a huge responsibility to take that on. Like, just imagine in my case, taking on the role and the identity of a spiritual master, going around the internet, walking up to people and introducing myself as a spiritual master, and not doing it out of ego, but just out of humility. Like, this is who I am. Simple. It's just a fact. It's not, look at who I am, how great I am a spiritual master, all of my accomplishments. Like, look how great. It's not about that. It's simply, this is who I am. And that work, to humbly speak your soul identity, it requires a lot of inner work, a lot of releasing of the ego, because the ego wants to protect you. It wants to hold on to identities that are comfortable. It wants to hold on to responsibilities that are manageable. When you take on the role and the responsibilities of your soul, which in my case is a spiritual master, it comes with so much responsibility. There's so much work and purpose that I'm here to fulfill. And it gives me great joy, but that's not the case for my ego. My ego would rather just be hiding invisible. Like, that's who I was for most of my life. I would not be going live on video talking about who I am and what I'm here to do. I would be the software developer in the back end, behind the screen, invisible, working from home. Like, even when I was working at Amazon, I'll be working from home most of the time. I love being invisible. But if I'm here to fulfill my soul's role as a spiritual master, I can't be hidden. I have to come out, and that's not comfortable for the ego. And that's the case for pretty much every soul. Our egos usually are very out of alignment with our soul's identity, with our soul's purpose. And even if the soul's identity and purpose starts getting revealed, the ego will negotiate and compromise to find something that's diminished, that is more comfortable for it. So, okay, instead of being a spiritual master, let's just be a spiritual teacher, play it low key and just do basic things, and just teach a course here and there. And why do we have to go all the way? Like, that is too much. You're still helping people do a course, and people will still benefit a lot. I can do that. I can play small, but that's not what my soul is here to do. And my soul, I have to honor my soul. My soul tells me, this, you're playing it small, you are cheating yourself, you're lying to yourself. And to be in integrity with myself, I listen and I say, yeah, I know I'm not just meant to be a spiritual teacher. I know I'm meant to play a much bigger role in people's lives. Because spiritual teacher educates. That's it. My role is so much more. My role is to initiate people on the spiritual journey, initiate them into higher levels of the spiritual journey, and identify who they are as a soul, channel their soul's voice. Because this is something I love doing. That I literally listen to what your soul is saying, that you are not, that you have not been listening to yourself, helping you to listen to your soul, to understand the resistance and the blockages that your ego has created to diminish your soul, to keep it repressed, to help you to unblock all of that and to help your soul to come online full, to be fully radiant, to fulfill your purpose, to know who you are really at the deepest level. That is one of my roles, that's one of my responsibilities, and I absolutely love it. But I could ignore it and I could just play a small spiritual teacher. And perhaps that's what you're doing. You're playing small. And often when you're playing small, it's not working out. This has been one of my big lessons, is that when I play small, it doesn't work. And if it's not working, it means I'm playing too small. It means I need to play bigger. It means I'm not really playing the role that I'm meant to be playing. So these are some of the steps. There's initiation, there's identifying roles, there's also acceleration. This is one of the roles that spiritual masters play, is that they collapse time, they collapse the journey. It's because of all the experience and the wisdom that has been gathered over lifetimes of making mistakes, falling into traps, repeating the same things over and over again. I have gone through that in this lifetime and in many other lifetimes. It helps me to very quickly identify where someone is stuck, where someone is in a loop, and to create the switch in them that accelerates their journey and cuts down years, decades, sometimes lifetimes. I have helped people break through some loops, some blockages which have been carrying over for lifetimes. Ancestral trauma, generational traumas, your own past life traumas, loops that are just beliefs, limiting beliefs that are carried life over life, or they are carried for decades in this life. And if someone doesn't switch that, if someone doesn't identify what's at the root of it, you can go on for many more decades and many more lifetimes. And that happens to many people. And that's why the work as a spiritual master is pulling that blockage out. And it happens very quickly. And that's what really collapses time. That's what accelerates the journey to a level which doesn't really happen with other modalities. Like psychotherapy, I have studied psychotherapy deeply, and I have had clients who have been with therapists for years and decades, and a single conversation or a few conversations with me can unblock things that I've been working on for decades. Understanding, analyzing, trying to overcome through discipline and hard work and effort, and a lot of work. And in a few conversations, that can shift completely and it can be gone from your life completely. For me, one of the big shifts that happened in my own life this way was anxiety. I had been, I was such an anxious person, and I had been working on my anxiety for years. But there were certain experiences that I had, and after that, the anxiety was gone, or big chunks of it were gone, and I just became a much more relaxed and peaceful person. And after a few of those experiences, it's pretty much gone. Like, I do not identify as an anxious person anymore. But that did not happen because I was working on it for years and years and years. I was working on it for years and years and years, and nothing was happening. Or even if it would happen, I would always be coping with my anxiety or always be keeping up. Every time I would get anxious and have to do a lot of work to discharge it, to come out of it. I don't do any of that. I did not do any of that. I had certain experiences which unlocked certain energies, and that's it. It cleared the energy. So that's one of the roles of a spiritual master is clearing out energetic blocks, clearing out things which you have been carrying consciously or unconsciously for years or lifetimes. And that is what accelerates the journey. Like, even it's in the book Autobiography of a Yogi. Yogananda talks about this. He talks about spiritual masters, like being in the presence of a spiritual master can accelerate your journey for years, decades, lifetimes. Like, you can collapse tens of years, hundreds of years, thousands of years, which you would have been going through manually, logically, linearly, and working with a spiritual master can collapse that entire timeline. So that's one of the responsibilities, one of the roles is helping people to accelerate their journey and to make quantum leaps to levels which otherwise would take years or lifetimes or probably would never even happen. Because some doors cannot be opened by any other path. They don't exist on a linear timeline or even on an exponential timeline. They only exist outside of space and time. And that's what spiritual masters help to do is that they basically help to pull you out of the space time continuum that you are on and place you on another one. Help you to take quantum leaps, find portals, find wormholes that bridge realities that have no bridge. So that's one of the other roles is accelerate. And then it's also evolution is a big one, helping people to evolve into higher versions of themselves. And that's somewhat related to what I've been speaking about already, so I won't spend a lot of time on that. But the way I will say it is that evolution with a spiritual master is not as much about work as much as it's about presence. And that's connected to the acceleration bit. It's not that you have to do the work yourself. Being in the presence of a spiritual master accelerates your journey and accelerates your evolution simply by being in the presence, being in the energetic field. And it's not a matter of belief. You don't, whether you believe it or not, it's something that happens. And I've experienced this with so many people over and over again. It's you don't have to believe any of this. That's the beautiful part. It's like my work doesn't depend on your belief. My work can even overcome your disbelief, your skepticism, your doubt. I tell people, come with all your doubts, come with all your skepticism. You don't have to drop any of that before you work with me. Because my work is stronger than any doubt, any skepticism, any resistance that you can bring. That's the difference of working with a spiritual master, is that my energy field, my power, my conviction is so strong that whatever you bring will dissolve in the presence of this energy. Whatever resistance and doubt you have, bring it. It doesn't matter, bring it on. I know it will dissolve when you're working with me. And it will dissolve. I'm literally using the word dissolve. It will alchemize simply through presence, simply through working, talking, and you don't even realize what all is dissolving, what all is shifting, what all is changing. Doubts that you have had for years, we don't talk about your doubts, we don't talk about your skepticism and your fears and your anxiety and all of that. Those things are shifting in the background. What we're doing in the foreground usually is very different. It's not so much focused on what's not working, on all your obstacles and all your resistance and all of that. The work in the foreground happens on a completely different plane, and all of this shifts in the background. So these are techniques which are very different from other modalities, because in other modalities you have to do a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of discipline. You have to keep up day after day to make sure that you're on the path. Whereas here, shifts are happening through presence, shifts are happening through activations, through things that you cannot explain rationally. And that's why I don't need people to believe. It works. Just come experience it for yourself. Come see for yourself. If it works or it doesn't work. If it doesn't work, what have you lost? And if it works, you will realize it was never a matter of believing. It does not matter whether you believe or not. And this for me is one of the big things that I want to rewrite, is that people believe that spirituality is about belief. And real spirituality is not about belief. It's about direct experience. And that's been my journey. I was not a believer. I was a hardcore atheist. I was a hardcore skeptic. But when I had my experience, it was a direct experience. And no one could do anything to make me disbelieve it, to make me not know that I had had the experience that I had had. It was so direct, so pure, so clear that I don't need convincing. I don't need to believe something. I know I have experienced the divine. I know I have touched the divine. Nothing you can say will convince me out of that. And this is the experience I help people to have. This is the experience. I have transmissions through which you can have that direct experience yourself. And when you've had that experience yourself, you will know. There's no doubt. Was this real? Was it not real? You will know you've had an experience of the divine. You've had a spiritual experience. There is no questioning it. So that is one of the other roles, is transmissions, transmitting divine energies. And that's very much related to one of the other roles, which is being a frequency holder. And holding what frequency? I was working through this for a very long time, identifying what is the frequency I'm meant to hold. And again, in this, there was a lot of ego involved, because my ego wanted to choose a frequency that would be easier. I can hold the frequency of love, I can hold the frequency of joy, I can hold the frequency of peace. These are, for me, these are easy frequencies to hold. But my challenge was holding the real frequency that I was meant to hold, which was truth. Truth is one of the most challenging frequencies to hold, because it brings about the maximum confrontation, it brings about the maximum challenge, the maximum resistance, the maximum projection. It brings about a lot of opposition. And my ego wanted to resist this as long as possible. But eventually I realized this is the frequency I'm meant to hold. Truth is a frequency. Truth is not words. Truth is not language. And anyone who mistakes words for truth has missed the whole point. Words can help you feel the frequency of truth. They can help you feel the energy of truth. But what you're experiencing is at a much deeper level. The truth that you're feeling is happening in your soul. You cannot experience truth with the mind. It just doesn't work. That's an illusion. If you experience it with the mind and you try and grasp it with the mind, which is what the mind and ego does a lot, it will take an experience of truth, put it into words, and say this is what it was, label it, put it into a box, and discard it, and keep you in that box of, oh yeah, we are living this truth. You're not living the truth. You're living a memory of the truth. You're living a concept of the truth. Living the truth embodied is a completely different experience that cannot happen through the mind. You cannot experience truth through the mind. You can understand truth through the mind. You can interpret truth through the mind, but all of it diminishes the actual frequency and energy of truth. And this is what I hold. So any of the transmissions that I do hold the frequency of truth. So my words carry this frequency, and whatever you experience, whether it's resistance or resonance, doesn't matter. Both resonance and resistance are activated in the frequency of truth. You will experience resistance of whatever your ego doesn't want to accept, and you will experience resonance of whatever your soul finally has heard and feels activated by. What you will not feel is neutral. If you don't feel anything, it means there is no truth being spoken. It just means there is empty words. But when truth is being carried in the words, it will make you feel. It will make you feel resonance or it will make you feel resistance. You can't not feel something. You may try to numb the feeling, you may try to avoid the feeling, you may try to escape the feeling, but you will feel something. And so this is one of the big and main roles, is holding the frequency of truth. And that requires being in integrity with myself. And that has been the toughest part of my journey, is finding integrity with myself. And this is, I want to talk about this a bit. I want to go into a bit of depth about this, because the integrity with self requires breaking a lot of constructs and concepts of morals and ethics and right and wrong that have been given to us by the world. And our ego wants to hold on to them, to be a good boy or a good girl, to show people how good we are and how nice we are. And to say, yeah, we are a good person. And then you end up doing something that's either out of integrity with yourself or it's out of integrity with being a good person. Because being a good person, according to the book, is very rigid. And you can't be a good person according to a book which was written thousands of years ago. It doesn't compute, because being a good person is something that's very dynamic. It requires you to be present. It requires you to be connected to your intuition. It requires you to be connected to the divine and act in alignment with the divine, with your intuition, with your soul. And oftentimes, that's not in alignment with people's values, with people's thoughts, with people's beliefs of what is the right thing to do. And this type of integrity demands the highest price. It demands you to disappoint people. It demands you to look bad in the eyes of other people, because they may not get it, because they may not agree, because they may think that there's a better way to do it or there's a more right way to do it, Or the book says that this is the right way to do it. How can you do it your way? But to be in integrity with your soul and with the divine, to be in alignment with yourself and the divine, requires listening to yourself and the divine, not listening to what other people say, what other people think is right. And sometimes it can happen that it's completely contradicting what has been established for thousands of years as the right thing to do. And so the frequency of truth is the frequency of integrity. You can't speak truth unless you are in integrity with yourself. And again, there are levels and levels and levels of this. You can be in integrity in some areas of your life, and when you're in those areas, when you're in that identity, you're speaking truth. But the moment you're in another area where you don't have integrity, where you're betraying yourself, where you're betraying your divine alignment, it will be felt. It will be felt that you're being fake. It will be felt that you're being someone who's not real. That you are somehow people pleasing, that you're somehow trying to fit in. And in a lot of places, this is what will be welcomed, this is what will be appreciated, this is what will be expected of you. But that's not a space in which your soul belongs. And the longer you spend time in those spaces, your soul recedes, it withdraws, it diminishes, it gets depressed, it acts out, it reacts, it starts sabotaging you. And this is a lot of the work that I do with people, is helping them to their bring themselves back into alignment with their soul, with their truth, to stop betraying your soul, to stop betraying your own truth, the truth of who you are, to really own who you are, to embrace who you are, to become who you are, and to start fulfilling that role. So many times, your soul's role will have nothing to do with what your family expects of you. You think my family expected me to be a spiritual master? No, they were super happy when I was a software developer, earning hundreds of thousands, working at Amazon, super prestigious. They can tell all their friends and family about, wow, look at my son, he's a software developer at Amazon. Huge pride for them, right? Like it's understandable. Like I appreciate their position and I can try and please them, but I'm not being in integrity with myself then. I could have continued in that job to please them, which was a big struggle to 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 follow my path and to walk away, not from the job. The job was the easy thing, but to disappoint people who had expectations from me, who expected me to be someone whom I had said, right? I loved my job. That's the difference for me compared to a lot of people, is that I did not hate my job. I did not resent my job. I loved Amazon. I loved my job. I loved whatever I was doing. So when I walked away from it, it wasn't because I hated it and I finally found what I loved. I already loved what I was doing and I found something that I loved even more, that called to me at a more complete level. It called to me at all levels. Rather than just my mind and just my ego, the path of spiritual mastery called to me at all levels. It appeased my mind also, it appeased my ego also to some degree, it appeased my heart, my soul, my spirit, my body. Everything was lit up by going on this journey. But I had to honor myself and defy cultural expectations, defy family expectations, defy the expectation of friends and loved ones. So this is one of the biggest parts of the work that I do with people, is helping you to connect with the strength within yourself and the love within yourself, to honor your soul, to honor your soul's role, to honor your soul's purpose, to honor your soul's identity, to truly become who you are and to own it and to speak it, to express it, to express the truth of who you are boldly, firmly, confidently, owning, yes, this is who I am. Yes, my name is Tio and I am a spiritual master. Yes, this is who you are. This is what your soul identity is. And that is who you really are. And this is the role that you're here to play. And it may be very big and it may be very grandiose. And to really own that, it's like, yes, this is who I am. This is how grand a mission I'm here to play. owning that requires a lot of work to be able to do it, not with arrogance, but with humility. Humility is being right sized. It's not inflating and it's not deflating. Modesty is deflation, arrogance is inflation. Humility is being right sized, speaking the truth factually of who you are and what you're here to do. If you are here with a big mission, humility is to state it clearly, precisely, exactly as it is. My mission is teaching people to embody heaven on earth. And my greater mission over lifetimes is building heaven on earth, building it as an experience. That's what I'm here to do as a soul. And I own it. Finally, I own it. I owned it to myself. I was not even willing to admit it to myself. It sounds so big. It sounds so delusional, so crazy, so this, so that. Like all the projections I can imagine from my own past self. You're here to build heaven on earth. Who the hell do you think you are? You're a spiritual master. Who the hell do you think you are? Heaven doesn't even exist. You think this planet can be heavenly? Look at all the shit that's going on. You're so delusional. Yeah, that's how I was speaking to myself. So when I say it to other people, I know what all it can evoke in their own minds, all the projections that can be triggered. But I also learned how not to focus on those people, because there are the people who are ready for me, who are ready for my mission, who I am meant to help, who I am ready to help, who I am meant to play my role in their life. And my focus, I learned to focus myself on them, because those people, you, the one watching this, are going to appreciate that I'm speaking my truth, I'm owning my identity, and I'm saying I'm here to play my role as spiritual master in your life. I know you will appreciate, because I have proof for myself. I've seen time and time again that my clients have so appreciated that I have owned who I am and I'm playing my role fully. That I'm not diminishing myself, I'm not pretending to play smaller, I'm not afraid of saying who I really am. A big part of my role is modeling what it looks like to own who you are, to own your identity and speak it out clearly, to fulfill your soul's purpose and mission. So, me saying all of this is not just to show you who I am, it's also to model what it looks like when you stand firm and clear in your soul's identity, and when you stand firm and clear and act from that place to fulfill your role and your purpose. So that this video is multi-purpose. There's a lot of layers to this video, and for any of the work I do, it's very multidimensional, it's very multi-layered. Anything that I do, when you experience it at different stages of your life, at different levels, at different times, you're going to take very different things from it. So there are a lot of activations in this video itself. I would recommend you to watch it again at a different time when you feel called to it. Save it somewhere, bookmark it. You can also join my private community. You can reach out to me, connect with me, work with me. All my content is driven with this energy. Nowadays, especially, it's like I'm bringing more and more of these frequencies of this energy into my content. So connect with me. When you're ready to work with me, let's work together. Already connecting with me, watching these videos, the content, it all contains this frequency. So if you are connected with me at any level, you're already receiving the transmission, it's already working. Now it's also on you to receive it, to take it in, to really embody it, to activate yourself, to work on it. And if you can't do it by yourself, or you want help, you want to do it together, of course, I'm here exactly for that. I'm here to initiate, I'm here to activate, I'm here to calibrate, I'm here to identify, I'm here to amplify, I'm here to accelerate, I'm here to expand, I'm here to evolve with you. This is what I'm here for, to help you come into your fullness, to help you experience heaven on earth. And heaven on earth cannot be experienced if you're not even being you. It doesn't make any sense. obviously, right? Like, just think about it. How can you experience heaven on earth at all levels, mind, body, heart, spirit, soul? How can you experience heaven on earth in all of these aspects of you if you are not even being you, and you're being someone else, and you're pretending to be someone else, and you're just denying your own truth? How could you experience heaven on earth? That, for me, is the highest hell on earth. The highest hell on earth is self-denial and self-betrayal. And this is what pretty much everyone experiences most of their lives. Some people wake up from it and honor themselves, but most of the people live their whole lives betraying themselves, pretending to be someone else. And there are so many levels to this, right? So at each level, you're honoring yourself more, you're loving yourself more, you're owning yourself more. The main thing is to get started on the journey and then to keep going to higher and higher levels. And a big part of that, my role is accelerating that process, taking it to a whole new level and going faster and faster. It doesn't have to take forever. You don't have to suffer on the spiritual journey. It doesn't have to be dark. It doesn't have to be heavy. It doesn't have to be serious. It can be very enjoyable. It can be very fun. Of course, there is duality and we experience both sides of it. But most people end up not experiencing the light side of spirituality, which is very sad and very painful for me. So, one of my goals is also to remind people the spiritual journey is very fun, it's full of love, it's full of joy, it's full of laughter, it's full of peace and bliss and ecstasy. It is heaven on earth. That is a crucial part of the experience of the spiritual journey. Don't forget that, don't miss out on that. So, that's where we are. If you've enjoyed this, please hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who you feel would appreciate this, who's also on the spiritual journey, one of your soul brothers, soul sisters, your soul family, who you're on this journey with. I would, I would really appreciate if you would share it with them, and I'm sure they will appreciate it too. So this is where I'm going to close for today. Thank you for watching, and I will see you tomorrow for day 21. That's the end of week 3. That's crazy. Almost 3 weeks of going live every single day, and tomorrow will be day 21. So see you tomorrow.